You wake before the first cry of the fruit sellers, before the sun warms the tiles of the tavern roof above your bed. The air in your small room is heavy with yesterday's bread, lamp oil, and the faint stench that clings to your tunic no matter how many times you scrub it. Your name is Tullus, and you are a Clocharius, a sewer worker in the heart of Rome. No one thanks you for what you do. No one looks you in the eye when they see the brown stains under your fingernails. But without your hands, Rome would drown in its own filth. You slip out from under the rough wool blanket and sit for a moment, blinking in the grey quiet. The tavern owner downstairs is still asleep, his snores muffled through the floorboards. You pull on your tunic, threadbare and patched at the elbows, and lace up your sandals. A thick leather belt holds your tools: a scraping knife, a small iron crowbar, and a worn cloth soaked in oil to wrap around your mouth and nose. You chew a crust of bread, drink from the shared clay jug, and head out into the street. The alley stinks of urine and vinegar, as it always does. Above you, shutters begin to creak open. The sky is turning from coal to ash. Rome is waking. You pass the bakery and nod to the girl who is already sweeping out the soot from the ovens. She doesn't smile. She used to, once, before her older brother joined the legions and didn't return. Now she looks past you as though you were part of the street. Your partner for the day is already waiting near the public fountain, sitting on a stone bench and rubbing his palms. Marcus is older than you by 10 winters and has worked the Cloaca Maxima since before the Emperor Trajan built the new forum. His hands are like twisted rope, and his eyes water constantly from the fumes of decades underground. "Ready?" he asks, without looking up. You nod. He hands you the torch. The entrance to the sewer is a wide stone grate at the edge of the market square. A few passing vendors watch you lift the iron latch and open the heavy slab, but none speak. The city above them is built on polished marble, on coins, on laws, but underneath, it rests on filth, and it is your job to keep that filth moving. The torch hisses as you step down into the dark. The first few feet always feel like sinking into a grave. The smell hits you sour, thick, warm, like spoiled meat. You've learned not to gag. You've learned to breathe through your mouth and think of pine trees. You and Marcus walk in silence, ankle deep in a slow river of waste that carries the detritus of senators and slaves alike. Above you, Rome thunders, cartwheels rattle, water spills from public baths, bells ring from the forum, but down here, the noise is muted. All you hear is the drip of water, the scurry of rats, and the muffled squelch of your footsteps. You stop when Marcus raises his hand. A blockage, a bundle of cloth and straw wedged into a curve of the tunnel, half rotted and swollen with grease. Marcus sighs. "We'll need the hook." You wedge your torch into a crevice, tie the cloth over your face, and reach in. The stench becomes unbearable as you pull. Bits of rotten vegetable matter and clumps of hair slide past your fingers. You feel something move and flinch, but keep pulling. It takes minutes of wrenching and cutting before the tunnel gives way and the flow resumes. You're soaked up to the thighs now, but the blockage is gone. You don't speak. There's no point. You both know this isn't the last one. As you walk farther, the tunnel narrows. You crouch, ducking under low arches, watching the flickering shadows on the curved brick walls. These bricks are centuries old. Some were laid by Etruscans. You've heard it said that Rome was founded on 7 hills and 1,000 lies. But these tunnels tell the truth. Here is where the city breathes. At midday, you find a dry ledge and rest. Marcus unwraps a fig from a wax cloth and hands you half. You chew in silence. "Did I ever tell you," he says finally, "about the time I found a coin down here, gold, with Nero's face?" You shake your head. "I kept it, hid it in my boot for 3 days. Thought maybe I'd buy a new tunic or a trip to Ostia. But then my son got sick. The healer asked for coin. I gave it to him. Bought us 3 more months. He doesn't say what happened after. You don't ask. When the break ends, you move on. Another tunnel, another blockage. A dead dog floats past in the muck. You don't flinch. You've seen worse. Infants sometimes, wrapped in rags. No one talks about those. The torch begins to sputter. You pull another from your pack, light it, and toss the old one into the sludge. You wonder how many things you've left behind down here. How much of yourself is mixed into the bones and silt and nameless rot. As you round a bend, Marcus stumbles. His foot catches on a rock and he nearly falls, but you grab his arm in time. His breath is ragged. You see the tremble in his knees. "I'm fine," he mutters, but his face is pale. You lead the way now. You don't speak. You're thinking about his son, about your own brother who went off to join the Navy and sent 1 letter before the silence, about the way the city depends on you but would never admit it. Later, when you climb out at last, blinking in the afternoon sun, the market is still bustling. No one notices the stench that follows you. No one asks what you've done today. You walk past the statues of marble gods. You see their perfect faces turned upward, as though they too have never looked down. The next tunnel is worse than the last. It slopes deeper, farther from light, farther from air. Your torch throws flickering shadows on the curved walls, and each step forward feels like a step away from the world above. Marcus walks slower behind you. His breath whistles now, shallow and fast. You want to ask if he needs to rest, but you know what he'll say. He won't stop. Not while he can still walk. The smell thickens. There's something wrong ahead. Not the usual stink of rot and grease. Is sharper, metallic. You stop just before a bend in the tunnel and raise your hand. Marcus leans beside you, his forehead damp. The blockage ahead is different. You can see the outline before you reach. It's something slumped in the curve where the water slows. A human shape, Marcus swears under his breath. You both wait. In the dark, in the damp, in the stench. You wait because neither of you wants to. Be the one to move first. You step forward. The torchlight glints off a piece of jewelry bronze, shaped like a serpent. You've seen rings like that before. Cheap market trinkets sold near the gladiator barracks. The man-boy really is face down, his fingers still curled. The sewage has soaked his clothes and turned his skin grey. There's blood in the water, no wound you can see, no weapon, just a body that shouldn't be here. You look at Marcus. Do we report it? He doesn't answer right away. Then he says, "We clear it." Your stomach tightens, but you nod. You've seen what happens to people who ask too many questions about dead bodies in the sewer. A boy like this didn't slip and fall. He was put here, and someone, somewhere, doesn't want him found. You tie the cloth tighter over your nose, wedge the torch into a crack, and grip the boy under the arms. He's light, too light, and the water clings to him like it wants to keep him. It takes both of you to drag him to the service shaft. You prop him against the wall in the dry space behind the iron grate. It's dark enough there that he won't be seen unless someone knows to look. It's the best you can do. When it's over, Marcus slumps against the wall and closes his eyes. His hands are trembling. We're not built for this. he says quietly. You don't ask if he means the work or the world. You sit beside him. The silence stretches. The water moves past, carrying with it the refuse of another busy day in Rome. Bits of cloth, chicken bones, a smashed wine jug, life reduced to fragments and flowing beneath marble temples. I had a son once, Marcus says suddenly. Before the one I told you about, Gaius. He was small, couldn't keep food down, cried at everything. My wife said he was soft like me. One day he stopped breathing. Just like that, you say nothing. There's nothing to say. He was 3. A drop of water lands on your shoulder, cold and sharp. You don't brush it off. Marcus pulls himself up. Let's finish the route. You follow, one torch left, the tunnel ahead shrinking into black dot. By late afternoon, your feet are blistered. The tunnel has taken you far from the Forum now, beneath the cheaper parts of the city where the streets are narrower and the drains overflow more often. At one point you pass beneath a brothel. You hear laughter, faint and distorted through the stone. For a moment, it sounds like music. You pause under a small opening in the tunnel roof. A trickle of clear water runs down, cleaner than anything you've seen all day. You cup your hand and rinse your face, not caring if it stings. The cold wakes something in you. Marcus leans beside you. When I was young, I thought I'd be a baker, he says. My uncle had an oven in Sabora. Used to give me the broken crusts. You look at him, surprised. I still remember the smell, he says, before dawn. The heat, the flour in the air. I wanted that life. Wake early. Knead dough, make something warm. He shrugs. Then my uncle died, and the oven was taken. And I got this job because someone needed a boy small enough to crawl under a collapsed shaft. That was 40 years ago. You don't tell him your own story. You're not ready to speak it out loud. When you finally emerge, the sun is low and golden, casting long shadows down the alley. Marcus climbs out behind you and stretches, groaning softly. His back is stiff. His shirt clings to him. No one greets you. A merchant steps aside as you pass. A pair of girls pinch their noses. The smell never leaves you, even in open air. Walk Marcus to his apartment, a narrow room above a stable. He waves you off at the door. Tomorrow, he says, we patch the west tunnel. You nod, but you see the shake in his hands, the pale tremor beneath his skin. You walk home alone, back in your room above the tavern. You strip off your tunic and rinse yourself with water from a cracked jug. The grime pools at your feet. You scrub harder. It doesn't help. You sit by the window and stare at the glowing rooftops. Somewhere out there, a senator gives a speech. A poet recites verses about glory. Children play in a courtyard, shouting over each other, and somewhere, the body of a boy in a sewer tunnel waits for no one. The light fades. You close your eyes, and for a moment, the city is quiet, but you know the tunnels never sleep. Your sleep is broken by dreams that don't belong to you. Wet stone, a boy's arm slipping from your grip, torchlight sputtering. You wake once to a banging below the tavern owner's drunk nephew knocking over a stool, then again to the squeal of a pig cart turning too fast on the cobbles. When morning finally comes, it's with a heaviness in your bones like you've been buried and pulled up again. Your tunic still smells. No matter how long you soak it, the tunnels leave their mark. You wash your face in cold water, slice a piece of salted fish, chew without hunger, and pull on your belt of tools. As you descend the stairs past the stacked amphorae, the tavern girl sees you and looks away. She's sweeping ash from the hearth, her braid heavy with last night's smoke. You used to think she might smile at you again one day. You stopped, thinking that weeks ago, Marcus isn't at the fountain. You wait 10 minutes, then 15. The sunlight grows brighter, glinting off brass fittings and temple columns. You watch a group of young men walk by in clean white tunics, laughing. One of them tosses a silver coin to a beggar with exaggerated flair. The others cheer. You say nothing. When the sun climbs high enough to warm the stone bench beneath you, you knock on Marcus's door. No answer. The stable boy says he hasn't seen him since yesterday. You're sent alone. The west tunnel is beneath the warehouse district, where olive oil is pressed and stored in rows of huge clay jars. You pass between them now, rows and rows of sweating amphorae, and for a moment the warm scent of olives makes your stomach turn. You find the hatch, kneel, and strike your torch. The descent is slower when you're by yourself. Every creak of the ladder, every rat that scurries past your boot feels louder. The torch crackles as the fire licks the damp. When you land in the tunnel, the air is thicker than usual. The west section always floods this time of year. The water creeps past your ankles and tries to tug your steps behind you. You hate this tunnel. It twists unnaturally built to fast under Augustus, never repaired properly. Parts of it collapse without warning. Marcus was the only one who could sense when the bricks were near giving way. You carry that fear alone now. At the first bend, you find the cause of the backup. A broken crate jammed into a narrow point, stuffed with wool rags and scraps of leather. Someone's trash heap dumped straight into the drain. You wedge your torch in a crack and step into the muck. The crate gives after several minutes of tugging, but the rags cling and snag. It takes your iron hook to break it apart. By the time the water flows freely again, your arms ache. There's still no sign of Marcus. You rest against the wall, breathing through your cloth. You miss his voice, not the words, but the shape of it. The sound of someone else bearing the weight with you. You pick up your tools and keep walking. Farther in, the walls narrow. Your shoulders brush damp stone. Bits of fallen mortar crunch under your sandals. A rat watches you from a crack in the wall, its eyes bright in the torchlight. You think of the boy, again the one with the serpent ring. Is he still where you left him? Did anyone come to find him? Did he have a mother? Did she wait for him last night, thinking he was with friends, thinking he'd be home by the second hour of the night? Has she begun to fear the worst, or is she still lighting candles and whispering prayers? You know what it is to wait. Once, years ago, your little brother vanished for a day and a half. He had been playing near the river and followed a merchant caravan out of curiosity. When he finally returned, sunburned and grinning, your mother wept so hard she couldn't stand. You didn't speak to him for 2 weeks. He died 2 winters later, coughing blood into a rag while the healer shook his head. Your mother followed him not long after. The river took them both, not with drowning, but with what it carried. Illness, always illness, always silent and patient. The tunnels know this too. You step around a sharp bend and stop. Ahead, the water is red dot. You raise the torch higher. It's not blood, it's wine. Cheap, sour, probably from the broken barrels to levels up. The drainage is clogged with grape skins, seeds, bits of bark from the casks. You sigh, almost laugh. Of all the things to flood the sewer, wine is not the worst. You kneel, scraping out the skins, As you do, you notice something bobbing behind the great father ahead. A foot. You freeze. Not again. You wade forward, slower now, heart hammering. The torchlight flickers off wet leather, a sandal, legs, a tunic, dark with water. But this one is alive. Barely you drop the tools and rush forward, splashing through the wine-stained sludge. The man is slumped against the far wall, half conscious. You grab his arms and pull. He groans, not Marcus. This one is younger. A worker, maybe. His face is pale and his hands are raw. He's breathing, but shallow. You drag him to a dry patch, behind a support arch, and press your hand to his chest. His heart beats slow. You tear a strip from your own tunic and wipe the water from his mouth. What happened? You whisper, though you know he won't answer. His eyes flutter. He tries to speak. You lean closer. Slipped, he says. No torch, no torch. Your jaw tightens. Another worker, sent down without flame. Some fool supervisor trying to save money. You stay with him for an hour, feeding him bits of water from a flask, letting him rest against your shoulder. When he can stand, you help him walk. It takes nearly twice as long to return to the surface. When you emerge, blinking into daylight, a shopkeeper screams. You forget what you must look like covered in wine-colored filth, supporting a half-dead man, your tunic torn and your face streaked with grime. The foreman of the warehouse comes running. You say nothing, just hand the man over. The foreman thanks you without meeting your eyes. He presses a coin into your palm. It's bronze. Hardly worth the risk you took. You nod, pocket it, and walk away. You don't go home. Not yet. Instead, you go east, past the forum, past the marble colonnades where senators stroll with slaves holding their scrolls. You pass temples and street performers and fountains with lion heads spitting water. You walk until your legs ache, until you reach the Subura district, where the buildings lean and the air smells of smoke and stew. Marcus lives here. When you reach his door again, you knock harder. This time, it opens. Marcus stands in the frame, barefoot, eyes rimmed red. Gods, he mutters. You look like death. I found a man in the west tunnel, you say. He moves aside and lets you in. The room is small, with only a cot, a stool, and a jug of wine. He pours you some without asking. You drink, it burns going down. I thought you were sick, you. Say I was, he answers. Still am. His voice is hoarse. Fever hit last night. Couldn't lift my arms. You should have sent word. He shrugs. And who would come? The supervisor. He docked my wages before checking if I was breathing. You nod. You sit. The silence stretches again. Then he says, there's a priest down by the aqueduct. He takes bodies, no questions. You look up. He's not looking at you. The boy, he asks. You nod. He stands and opens a small chest near his cot. He pulls out a folded cloth and a jar of oil. We'll go tonight, he says. That night, the moon is a thin sickle. You carry the boy between you on a makeshift stretcher. His body is wrapped tight. The serpent ring still on his finger. The priest doesn't ask his name. You watch as the cloth is lowered into the pit behind the shrine. A few words are spoken. Oil is poured. A single candle left to burn. You and Marcus walk home in silence. At the door to the tavern, he says, thank you. You nod. In the morning, you return to the tunnel. The sun is warm. The air smells of roasting chestnuts. Somewhere above, a senator gives a speech about glory. You descend beneath him, and once again, you carry the weight of the empire on your back, unspoken, unseen. Marcus told you he'd rest one more day. He's drinking barley broth and keeping down bread, but his color is wrong, sallow and gray around the temples. You didn't say it aloud, but when you looked at him this morning, you saw the edges of something final. He waved you off with a cough and said, "Go before the sun's too high. You'll boil in that tunnel." The forum's central drain is your task today. It is the most dangerous and the most political. The Cloaca Maxima runs beneath temples and marble walkways where Rome parades its pride. The senators walk above you in scarlet-trimmed togas, and their sandals send dust into the cracks of the world below. No one speaks of the drains beneath the forum, but everyone knows they're there. Everyone relies on them. Every god has a priest. Every soldier has a poet. Every merchant has a statue in his honor. But the sewer carries them all. You descend beneath the Curia, where senators gather to shout about grain laws and war. The drain here has collapsed before once during a state funeral, when the street swallowed a ceremonial cart. You still remember the shouts, the panic, the scramble of priests and guards, and then the silence as you and Marcus were called in the night with torches and ropes. You remember dragging out a crushed wheel and part of a horse's leg. This place holds weight. You crouch into the passage, brushing your shoulder against carved brick. The first 20 feet are fine, but then you find a leak. It's not water this time. Oil. A merchant has likely dumped his spoiled stock, cheaper than disposing of it properly. The slick sheen pulls at your ankles, and the torch crackles in. Protest. You hold it high, careful not to lower the flame. If the oil catches, the whole tunnel could go in a breath. You edge along the wall, each step deliberate in the flickering light. You see graffiti scratched into the stone, names, prayers, crude drawings of soldiers and gods, and something obscene with a goat. You pause when you see a small inscription that reads, "Felix worked here. Felix died here. Felix still sees." Your hand brushes the stone. You know that name. Every Clocarius does. Felix was a worker in the days of Claudius, famed for crawling into the flooded tunnel alone to clear a jam. He was found 3 days later, crushed beneath a fallen grate. They said his ghost haunts the lowest tunnels. Some light incense before entering. Some mutter his name. You never have. But now you feel something cold in your stomach. You pass the inscription and keep moving. The oil thickens near a bend. You find the cause, a shattered amphora jammed into the corner. The pottery shards are edged with gold, paint likely from the temple store above. A priest must have broken it during cleaning and tossed it in secret. Rather than report the damage, you crouch and clear the shards. As you do, you hear a faint splash behind you. You freeze. Rats don't make that sound. You turn slowly. The torchlight flickers across the water. A man stands at the tunnel mouth, half-shadowed, watching you. You straighten. He's tall, clean, wearing a brown cloak too fine for this place. His face is calm, but his hands are clenched. You can't see a weapon, but that doesn't mean he's unarmed. "You're not supposed to be here," you say. The man steps forward. His sandals don't make a sound. "I could say the same of you," he replies. You raise your torch. "I'm a sanitation worker. This is my assigned route." He eyes you for a long moment, then nods. "I thought you were someone else who doesn't answer." Then, quietly, "Did you find a body here 3 days ago? A boy wore a ring." You hesitate, The man notices. Where is he? You know what happens to bodies down here. His jaw tightens. He was my brother, you say. Nothing. He never came home, the man says. We searched every street, every cell. Then someone said they saw him near the Senate steps, running from guards. He wasn't a thief. He wasn't political. You lowered the torch. We buried him, you say, with a priest. It was quiet. The man looks away. When he looks back, something in him has shifted. Thank you, he says. You nod. He turns, walks back into the dark, and disappears. You never hear his footsteps. By the time you return to the oil pool, the air feels colder. You work in silence. The pottery is removed, the flow restored. The torch burns low. Your arms ache, your knees crack. You begin the slow walkout. Up the curved ladder and through the old hatch beneath the temple of Saturn. When you reach the street, a boy selling garum stares at you. He looks 10. His feet are bare and blackened. His ribs show through his tunic. He says nothing, just watches as you emerge from the earth like some ancient god in rags. You nod to him. He blinks, then holds out a crust of bread. You don't take it. You can't, but you place a small coin in his hand. The bronze one Marcus gave you months ago. After fixing the tunnel beneath the bakery, the boy runs. You watch him disappear. You walk home slowly at the tavern. The usual noise fills the air after dice, a lute off-key. You pass through it like mist. Upstairs, you wash. You peel off the tunic, soak your hands. You scrub your arms. You pour water over your head until your skin stings. You sleep on the floor in your dreams. The tunnel speaks, not with words, but with the voice of dripping water and shifting stone. You see the boy, again the one with the ring. Then the man who claimed him. Then Marcus, sitting alone, coughing into a rag he hides from you. You wake before dawn. The air is cool. You sit at your small wooden desk and take out the wax tablet you've barely used since your training days. You write beneath the forum. I saw gold and rot. Above the forum, they walked in clean sandals. Below, we carried them all. You leave the tablet on the sill dot. When the sun rises, you put on your tunic, take your tools, and return to the tunnels. Someone must keep the Empire from drowning. It hits the rooftops like thrown grain, first in a spatter, then in sheets. The tavern girl bangs open the shutters and curses the gods under her breath. You lie still on your mat, watching the ceiling. Every drop carries with it a warning. Rain will find the cracks, the broken seals, the missing bricks in the tunnels, and you will follow behind it, patching what you can, pretending the tide doesn't rise. You rise before the second hour. No breakfast, just water and the crunch of old bread. Your tunic is still damp from yesterday, but there's no time to wait for the hearth to warm. Marcus is worse. He hasn't come to the fountain in 2 days. You knocked last night, but he didn't answer. Today, you don't try again. You already know the foreman gives you a new assignment. North Tunnel, near the Campus Martis. Smells wrong, he says. The fishmongers are complaining. Says the water's backing up and bubbling. Maybe something died down there, again. You take the ladder down near the granary steps. The bricks are slick with rainwater, and your torch struggles to stay lit. You descend slowly, careful with your grip. The tunnel opens around you like a lung dot. It does smell wrong, rot. Yes, but more than that. A sharp, acrid edge. Not dead animal, not food waste. Something metallic. You press the cloth over your mouth and advance. The Campus Martis tunnel is older than most, built during the Republic and reinforced only once since. The walls bow inward slightly, as if the city above is exhaling weight into its ribs. You step around puddles that shimmer in strange colors. Something's bleeding into the water. You find the source, 3 chambers, in a vat. Wooden, cracked open and empty now, but the stench clings to it. Dye, indigo, maybe, or something worse one. Of those illicit compounds the cloth makers use when they want color that doesn't fade, even if it burns the skin. Someone dumped a whole vat down here. You crouch near it and dip the end of your iron hook into the pooled water. It comes up blue-black, the color of a bruise. You pull back. Whatever this is, it's not meant for lungs. There's a trick you learned from Marcus. Years ago, you take a strip of your cloth and soak it in vinegar. Tie it around your mouth. It helps a little. You wedge the torch into the crack of the wall, then kneel beside the flow and begin clearing the jam. It takes an hour. The rain makes it worse, feeding the runoff. You're up to your knees in poisoned water when the blockage finally gives way. You watch the flow change, the swirl of filth pulled forward and swallowed by the city's deeper gut. When you turn to leave, something catches your eye. A coin, not in the water, but lodged in the mortar of the wall. Not dropped, but placed. You recognize the Paterna tiny altar, carved into the side of the tunnel, barely wider than a fist. A Clocarius offering. You step closer and see 3 more coins. A copper, a worn silver, a strange one with a hole through the center. Beside them, a carved line of script. To those who keep the tide, your throat tightens, you add your own. Coin, the small brass one from the boy in the forum. You light a twist of cloth and leave it burning when you surface. The sun has broken through. Rome shines in gold and wet white. You blink at the brightness. A senator rides past on a black horse, flanked by guards. Children chase each other around a fig seller's cart. You stand on the steps, dripping, half invisible. You walk home, but you don't stop. Not today. Instead, you take the southern road, past the outer edge of the city, where the aqueducts rise like stone giants, their arches reaching for the sky. You follow the path that curves toward the hill where the dead are buried. You pass the marble tombs of noble families, inscriptions carved deep into stone. He served with honor. She bore 7 sons. He fed the city. No one carves. He kept the drains clear. Marcus is buried in a pauper's lot. You find the spot easily. The priest remembered you. A sewer man, he asked. We had one yesterday. Fever didn't suffer long. You stare at the patch of dirt. There is no stone, just a pile of disturbed earth. You kneel beside it and rest your hand on the mound. You should say something instead. You reach into your bag and take out your iron hook. You drive it into the dirt, deep, then leave it standing like a marker. It was Marcus's once. You never asked how he got it. Now it stays with him. The next day, you are sent to the drains beneath the amphitheater. Games are scheduled. They need everything cleared. You work quickly, without speaking. You pass under the stone seats, where thousands will scream and cheer. The arena smells of blood and sawdust, even in the dark. You scrub until your fingers blister. You patch a broken grate. You chase out a snake with the flat of your spade. When you finish, you sit in the dark a while. You light a candle and balance it on a flat stone. The flame flickers. You whisper, Felix, Marcus, all of you. The words dry in your mouth. You let the candle burn. The next morning, A boy is waiting at the fountain. He's barefoot, hair wild, eyes sharp. You, the sewer man. He asks, you nod. They say you pulled a man out near the olive press, saved him. You nod again. They say you work alone now, that the tunnel ghosts don't bother you. You say nothing. He steps forward. I want to learn. You raise an eyebrow. It stinks, he says, but it's work, and you're still breathing. You look him over, skinny, young, but he doesn't flinch. What's your name? You ask Vibius. You nod. Bring a torch, you say, and don't drop it. By the third week, he's learned the basics. How to tie the cloth just right. How to hold the hook without catching his knuckles. How to tell the difference between a loose stone and a cracked vault. You don't say much. He talks enough for both of you. Why do we even do this? He asks once, wiping muck off his boots. You look at him. If we don't, who does? He thinks about that. Then he shrugs. Suppose the city just floods. That might be better. Wash everyone away. You don't answer. Later that night, when he's asleep on the floor of the upper room, curled near the empty hearth, you write again. The city above sleeps because we do not. The tide comes for everyone. We are the hand that holds it back. 2 months pass. The rain returns. The boy grows taller, stronger. He's quieter now in the tunnels. Still laughs when he slips. Still curses the rats. But there's something steadier in his steps. One day he finds a coin on the floor and gives it to you. What do we do with this? He asks. You take him to the tunnel altar. He adds the coin himself. You light the flame, and the two of you watch it burn. You feel it in the stones, first how the heat lingers longer into the night, how the tunnels sweat without rain. Above, Rome bakes in its own grandeur. Market stalls swell with overripe figs. The bathhouses overflow. The fountains sputter. You and Vibius keep moving. Each morning you walk side by side to the hatch near the granary, or the grated steps behind the wine merchant's wall, or the covered shaft in the temple garden that no one remembers exists. You carry hooks and shovels and a torch between you. Sometimes you talk. Mostly you don't. The work doesn't change. The city's waste continues. It always will. Today's assignment is near the old aqueduct runway runoff from the public. Baths meets the tunnel that skirts the edge of the Aventine Hill. It's one of the oldest parts of the system. Some say it's Etruscan in origin, or even older. You believe it. The bricks are uneven, worn like river stones, older than the empire itself. You tell Vibius to stay by the ladder. The tunnel narrows farther in, and the last time you tried to squeeze through, a chunk of ceiling came down with a crack loud enough to make your heart stop. He doesn't argue. You crawl through the narrow passage on your side, dragging the hook behind you. The air here is thick with old mold and something sharp, like lime. You don't light a torch, it's too tight, and there's little air to feed the flame. You bring only a waxed lamp and your breath. The blockage is near the bend. A bundle of rags, old rope, and bones, small ones. Cat, maybe, or something that used to be. You clear it slowly, careful not to pull too hard. The weight shifts, then gives, and the flow trickles forward again, eager, like a vein just reopened. On your way back, you pause. There's a carving here. Not a name, not a shrine, just a pair of hands etched into the stone. Open palms, roughly done. You press your own hand over one. The fit is close. That night, Vibius coughs. a dry, barked sound that echoes in the tavern's upper room. You watch him stir, wipe his nose with the corner of his sleeve. "It's the dust," he mutters. "Those bricks today, probably mold." You nod, but you don't say what you're thinking. You've heard that cough before. You've watched it grow the next morning. You take him to the forum tunnels, not because they need repair, but because they matter. You show him the old stone seat near the water's edge. You show him the coin altar. You show him the inscription from Felix. He stares at it for a long time. Still sees, he reads aloud. "Do you think that's true?" You shrug. "I think the ones who built this, they knew it would outlive them." Vibius places his palm on the stone. "Then I'll add my name." He scratches in silence with the tip of a nail. When he steps back, it reads, "Vibius was here, so." "Were you?" He grins. "We'll be ghosts together." You ruffle his hair. For the first time, he doesn't duck. 3 days later, he doesn't wake. The fever comes fast. You sit beside him, wiping his brow with vinegar water, crushing dried figs into broth. He tries to joke something about how even ghosts need to sleep, but his voice is raw, scraped thin by the heat in his lungs. You send for the priest. He arrives late, drunk, forgetful, smelling of old incense. He mutters a half prayer over the boy, then leaves without asking your name. You stay. The night stretches long and silent. You hold Vibius's hand, and when it grows cold, you hold it anyway. He is buried beside Marcus, no stone, no name, just another patch of disturbed earth in the row of forgotten. Men. You bring the hook. His. You drive it into the ground beside Marcus's. For a moment, it looks like 2 flags planted in soil, like a claim. Then the wind comes. You sit there a long time. You return to the tunnels, alone again. They feel different now, not darker, not quieter, but emptier in a way you hadn't felt before. You retrace the routes. Vibius liked best through the low-run tunnel behind the amphitheater, where he once found a carved dolphin in the wall, through the market runoff lane, where he discovered a tile with a horse stamped into it. You collect small things he left behind, a broken knife, a waxed string, a bundle of wrapped cloth he used to pad his boot. You carry them in your bag for days. Then you go back to the altar. You place each item there. You light a candle. You carve beside. His name still sees, still holds. A month passes. Then another winter is coming. The rain is sharper now, colder. It carries silt and gravel and rust. The drains flood faster. You spend hours in the storm grates, shoveling filth with numb hands, watching your breath rise like smoke. One morning, the foreman gives you a letter not common. You stare at it for a while before opening it. The seal is unmarked, the parchment damp from weather. Inside, a single line. Report to the Senate office. Sewer review. You've never been summoned before. You don't dress differently, just wipe your hands clean, trim your beard, and carry your tools wrapped in cloth at the curia. A clerk takes your name and leads you inside. The room is stone, bare, echoing. A senator sits at the far end, young, distracted, with the look of someone already late for a feast. He gestures at the pile of scrolls on his table. These are yours. You nod. He lifts one. The report from beneath the Temple of Vesta, your notes on the cracked vaults under the fish market, the suggestions for redirecting the flow between the bathhouse and the granary. You nod again. He doesn't look up. We're implementing some of them. You blink. We, the City Works Board. They want better flow through the central. Drains before next year's festival. Your notes are clear. He finally looks up. You'll train others. You hesitate. I work alone. Not anymore. We're assigning apprentices. You'll have 4. You don't reply. The senator stands. I don't care how you train them. Just keep the streets dry. Then he leaves. Your new crew arrives within the week. 2 boys, 2 men, all younger, all thinner, all with something desperate in their eyes. You teach them how to tie the cloth, how to hold the hook, how to spot a rat hole before it collapses. They listen. Some flinch at the smells. One vomits on the first day, but they come back. You don't. Ask why. Months pass. The altar fills with offerings, coins, buttons, a carved fish, a knife, a hook, each left by someone who came after, each placed with care. You write one last note. They will not know our names, but they will walk clean streets, and that will be enough. You place it under the stones. Then you pick up your hook. The tunnel waits. That's what you tell them on their first real descent there. New boys, your crew. You don't say it like a warning or a curse, but like a fact of stone. You say it when you reach the 3rd vault under the fish market, where the walls still bear the finger-scratched names of sewer men who died a century ago. You let them stand there in silence, reading words chiseled by candlelight. The tunnels remember, you say, even when no one above does. They don't respond. They don't need to. They feel it too. Your crew learns quickly. Lucius, the youngest, is impatient but careful. He hums when he works, low and tuneless, like a man keeping time for himself. Gaius never speaks unless spoken to, but he's strong, tireless. He can carry broken stone without stopping. The twins, Publius and Severus, move as one. They joke too much and forget the vinegar cloth when it matters most, but they know how to listen when the danger is real. You lead them the way Marcus led you, without praise, without softness, but not without care. When the rats scatter, you are first to swing the torch. When the vault shifts, you send them back. When the stench grows sharp and bitter, you taste the air before they do. They follow, not because they're paid to, but because they trust that. You've seen worse and survived. The city above barely notices. The senators send another letter more. Repairs, more flood concerns, more requests for rerouting. But there is no coin with the message. No name signed in ink. The baker never asks why the drains under her shop run smooth after the storm. The wine seller never sees you patching the vault behind his storeroom. The priest at the temple of Vesta walks over stones you replaced with your own hands and never once looks down. That's how it's always been. One afternoon, while clearing a blockage under the baths, Lucius finds something. He calls to Eulo. Urgent, you kneel beside him. It's a bone, long, narrow, human, adult. You dig farther, 3 more. A scrap of cloth, eaten by time, and beside it, a metal ring green with age. But whole.Gaius says nothing. The twins stand back. You take the ring and turn it in your palm. It's etched, not with a name, but a symbol, a flame inside a hook. Recognize it. You've seen it before on the old tool handle Marcus once showed you. The mark of the city's first cloakery, from when the system was new and dangerous and full of honor. You place the ring in a wax cloth and tie it shut. Then you bury the bones again. No altar, no coin, just the dirt, sealed with stone. Later, that night, You carved the symbol into the wall above the work table. Flame hook. No one speaks when they see it, but Lucius touches it once. With reverence, the fever comes again, not to your crew, to you. It starts as a chill, unnoticed, then a pressure in your chest. By the second day your limbs are heavy. The tunnels feel warmer than they should. On the third day, you collapse while clearing the western grate. Severus and Publius carry you back. Lucius finds a doctorial. Expensive. The man checks your tongue, your eyes, your nails. He smells your breath and frowns. Dust, he mutters. Stone in the lungs. Wet mold. You've spent too long underground. You try to speak. He holds up a hand. Rest. That's the only cure, if there is one. You sleep 3 days. When you wake, the room is still. Your crew sits nearby. GAIUS, sharpening the hook. Lucius. Boiling water. SEVERUS, carving something on the wooden wall. A name. Yours. You try to rise. They push you down, gently. Not yet, Lucius says. They take over your roots. All of them. For a week, you stay above ground. You sit by the steps of the fountain, watching workers pass. You write nothing. You only listen. A man curses the city for backed-up drains. A woman praises the smooth stones by the forum. No. One mentions the tunnels, but you know they're working. You smell the change in the air. You feel it in your breath. On the 10th day, they bring you something. A pouch of waxed cloth. Inside, 3 coins. A broken clasp, a piece of red tile. All found in the tunnels that week. They place it in your lap without words. You run your hand over each item. Then you close the pouch and nod. Tomorrow you'll return. You descend at dawn. The air smells of moss and oil. Your steps echo like they used to. You carry only the hook. Lucius walks beside you. The others stay behind. You take the long wape past the old altar, past the forum line, through the fish market tunnel and into the forgotten passage beyond. The dye vats. You stop at the shrine. It's grown. More coins. More names. A strip of worn linen with a name scratched in charcoal. Albia worked quietly. You place your pouch on the stones. You light the candle. You speak aloud to the ones below, to the ones who came before, to the hands that held back the tide. Lucius stands beside you. He adds his coin, and for a while, the two of you say nothing, because there's nothing to say, only to remember that night. It rains again. Hard, the city panics, streets flood, vendors shout, guards struggle to guide the water away from the plazas, and yet by dawn the forum is clear. The drains did their work. No one knows why. No one asks, but in the tunnel below, by candlelight, your crew sharpens tools, and the hook in your hand feels right again. You close your eyes, and for a moment, you imagine the whole city floating above you like a great ship, safe because someone remembered to hold the bottom. A slow, white veil over the stones, softening even the capital's sharp edges. You walk alone to the hatch near the olive market, where steam rises from the drains like breath from some ancient animal. Lucius is late. Gaius, too. You don't mind. The city is still, and stillness is rare. You run your hand along the iron grate, feeling the cool rust beneath your fingers. Below, the tunnel waits. You open it. Inside, the air is damp but clean. The last rains have washed the worst of it away. The torchlight flickers on polished stone, casting long shadows across the carved messages left by hands long gone. You read them again, though you've read them 100 times. Felix still sees Vibius was here. So were you. They will not know our names. You add a new one, just a mark, a single line not for you. For whoever walks here next, when Lucius finally arrives, he brings bad news. The senator, he says. The young one who backed the tunnel repairs, dead. You raise an eyebrow. Poison. You ask. Lucius shakes his head. Horse through him. Neck broke. You sigh. Not because you knew the man, but because his loss will ripple. Will they still fund the projects? Lucius shrugs. They've already slowed. That evening at the crew table, you explain. No coin means no help. If the upper grates clog, they'll blame the workers. If the markets flood, they'll blame the drains. Guy frowns. We keep them clean. They won't care. Severus leans forward. So what do we do? You look at the tools on the wall, the pouches, the old lamp with the cracked handle. We work anyway. The next weeks are harder. More calls, less rest. A shaft near the Temple of Saturn collapses. You patch it with your own hands. A fountain overflow near the grain depot. You reroute the flow with sandbags and prayer. No one thanks you, but the streets stay dry. One morning, the twins don't show. You wait, torch in hand, outside the tannery. Vault, they don't come. By midday, a merchant's boy arrives with a note. Publius fevered. Severus watching him. You nod. You send Lucius with a pouch of vinegar cloths and the hook they shared that night. You leave a candle at the altar. The flame bends low, shivering in the damp. Publius doesn't return. Severus does. But quieter, he scrubs the walls harder. Says less. Wears his brother's ring on a string round his neck. You don't ask, but one night you find him alone near the vault where they carved their initials. His hands are red, his breath tight. He looks at you. Will it matter? He asks all this. You kneel beside him. It already does. He doesn't answer, but he leaves a coin the next morning. The new recruits arrive soon after. Young Sharpid, sent by the Senate, with no training and less patience. They talk too loud, complain about the smell, ask why they must go down when the city's dry. You don't scold them, you show them. The clogged grate by the laundry house, the cracked runoff tunnel near the prison, the coins in the wall. You let them see what's buried. Some return, some don't. That's always been the way. Winter hits harder this year. The aqueduct near the northern baths freezes. Bursting stones in every direction. You and Gaius spend 3 days hauling rubble and laying new slabs. Your fingers numb through the cloth. The grain market floods. Not from rain, but from a careless clerk who blocked the runoff with broken crates. You don't wait for permission. You and Lucius climb down the west shaft and dig a channel. Bare-handed. The baker offers you stale bread as thanks. It's more than most. On your birthday, you descend alone, not for work. To remember, you walk the length of the Cloaca Maxima from the old stone tunnel beneath the hill to the archway near the river's mouth. You light a candle at each bend. You whisper a name at every echo. Marcus, Vibius, Albia, Felix. Publius at the river gate. You sit in the dark. You listen to the city. Breathe. That night, Lucius finds you. He doesn't speak at first. Then he says, "You were right." You raise an eyebrow. The tunnels remember. he explains. I saw something. You gesture for him to sit. He pulls out a tile from his pouch red, with a thumbprint still pressed in the corner. Cracked, but whole. Found it under the old bakery vault. Same tile from the floor above. Buried 100 years. Someone touched it. You nod. They always do. He places it beside your candle. It's not ours, he says, but we carry it. By spring, the Senate changes again. New voices, new scrolls, new demands. They send another letter, consolidate crews, reassign older workers, efficiency mandates. You fold the parchment without a word. Later that week, Lucius calls a meeting. Around the tool table, he speaks clearly. We split into pairs. Fewer official crews, more unofficial ones. Gaius grunts. You mean we ignore orders? Lucius looks at you. You give the smallest nod. He turns back. We clean what matters. Months pass. The crews grow quiet but strong. New hands learn from old ones. Gaius teaches knot tying to a boy with missing fingers. Severus trains a girl from the wine streets how to anchor a vault beam. Lucius organizes the maps. You oversee, but more often now you rest. You sit at the top of the shaft and listen to the shovels below. Sometimes you smile. One day a child finds you near the fountain. She's 7, maybe 8, hands dirty, hair wild, holding a chipped bowl. You're the one who stops the stink, she says. You blink. She shrugs. Mama says it's the tunnel man. You nod. She hands you the bowl. Water for you. It's warm. You drink it anyway. Later that day you return. To the altar, you bring a new coin, silver. From your own pouch, you place it gently, then carve a final line. If it flows, we were here. You light the candle and leave it burning. The city forgets. Names, that's always been true. But the streets stay clean. The markets stay dry. The baths keep running, and the tunnels remember. They remember the hands that held back the filth, the boots that crushed the rats, the shoulders that bore the weight. And in the quiet below Rome, where torchlight bends and echoes stretch, you are never alone. The day begins with fog, thick and low over the paving stones, softening the clang of wheels and the bark of merchants. You step through it like stepping into memory, each breath laced with damp ash and the scent of standing water. The kind of morning Rome forgets itself, the kind that turns familiar streets ghostly. You head for the hatch near the olive market, the one that always sticks. The handle is cold under your palm. Beneath it waits the tunnel, quiet for now. You open the grate and descend without waiting for Lucius. You like to greet the dark alone sometimes. Below, the torch catches quick, oil-fed and obedient. The vault breathes around you, low and steady. The air has been kind these past days. Rain cleared the filth. The flow runs easy. You walk the long corridor where the walls still hold fingernail carvings, coins wedged in joints like prayers. You press your fingers to a familiar name, not reading it so much as remembering where you first saw it, where Marcus pointed it out to you with his cracked hand. He never said whose name it was. Maybe it was his, or maybe it was a reminder that names were less important than presence. You feel the wall's cold calm press against your palm and whisper nothing into the stone. It hears you anyway. Lucius arrives late. His face is pinched. He doesn't speak until you've circled the inspection path and lit the 5th torch. Then he says the senator is dead. the one who pushed through funding for the West Shaft restoration, thrown from a horse, neck snapped like an olive branch, the kind of death reserved for the young and overconfident. You take it in without surprise. You know how quickly the city forgets its promises once the one who made them is gone. You nod slowly, counting out the next steps in your head. Less coin, fewer replacements, more demands. At supper that evening, Gaius grumbles that his knee clicks on the stairs again. Severus peels a boiled egg to fast and curses when the shell shatters. Lucius delivers the senator's death like a messenger reading a scroll aloud. You listen and then say what needs saying. No coin means no new teams. No new teams means we stretch thin. If the east grates clog and no one clears them, the wine district floods and they blame us. If the rains come early and we don't patch the joints in time, the forum turns to swamp and we lose more than sleep. We adapt. We keep the flow going. That's what matters. 2 mornings later, the twins are missing. You wait by the dye vats, where they're scheduled to check the runoff trench. Nothing. By the time the sun climbs past the bakery roofline, a boy comes running with a note. Publius took a fever in the night. Severus stayed to watch him. You press your lips tight. The message doesn't mention a physician. You send Lucius with vinegar-soaked cloths and a folded pouch of salt. You add your own ring to the parcel, just for luck. That night, you light a candle at the tunnel shrine. You set it by their carved initials and watch the wax pool slow, the flame bow under unseen drafts. Publius never returns. Severus does, but changed. His shoulders hold weight now, even when he rests. He sharpens tools too long. He moves with a deliberate silence. One evening, you find him kneeling beside their favorite tunnel bend, the one where the ceiling dips low and echoes carry. Far he doesn't hear you come. His fingers are rubbed raw. His tunic is stained. When he finally looks up, his voice is stripped down to the bone. Will it matter? He asks. All this. You don't give him comfort. You give him truth. It already does. That's all you say. He nods, not like he agrees, but like he's memorizing. The words dot the next week. Rome sends you new hands, young, thin-wristed, wearing sandals too soft for real labor. You're told they're sent by the census office, reassignments, practical boys from the hills who know numbers but not stone. They complain about the stink. They ask why the light dies so fast down here. You don't scold them, you show them. The rats at the corner vault, the steam that burns even through cloth, the names cut into the limestone by men they'll never meet. Some leave by sundown. Others return the next day, quieter. By the time winter speaks its first true word, the northern aqueduct has cracked. You and Gaius spend a week hauling wet brick up and down a slope that hasn't been dry since Augustus ruled. When your legs give out, Gaius laughs. He calls you old and then rubs vinegar on your knees without asking. Lucius starts mapping the flows at night. You catch him once, hunched over a wax tablet, sketching the directions like rivers of blood. He doesn't know you're watching, so you let him finish. That kind of mind needs quiet. On your name day, you descend alone. You take a single torch and a half loaf of hard bread. You walk the full curve of the Cloaca Maxima, from the high vault behind the olive press to the echoing gate where the flow kisses the Tiber. At each sharp bend, you stop. You light a candle. You whisper a name. Marcus, Felix, Albia, Publius. And then you walk again. The river mouth roars like a great throat, swallowing the runoff of a million footsteps. You sit on a low ledge, and let the candle burn down in your lap. You listen. The city above chatters and clatters, but beneath it all, you hear the one sound that has never stopped. The flow, moving, always moving. Not fast, not loud, but steady, like a heartbeat, like breath. You touch the stone beside you and think of nothing for a while. The next morning, a girl finds you at the fountain. She's barefoot, clutching a cracked bowl. Her face is dirty but unafraid. She asks if you're the tunnel man. You nod. She says her mother told her someone keeps the stink away. She came to see if it was true. You crouch and ask her name. She says Livia. You ask if she likes dry streets and clean water. She nods. You tell her then you're not the only one. There are many tunnel men. She stares at you like she's trying to count them all in her head. Then she hands you the bowl. It's filled with water. You drink it even though it's warm. She smiles once and runs off. You stay there long after she's gone, the bowl cradled in your hands. That night, you return to the tunnel shrine. You bring a new coin, not bronze, but silver. Yours, you press it into the mortar by the others. Then you take your carving knife and cut one final line into the damp wall above the offerings. If it flows, we were here. You say it aloud, not loud, just firm. The kind of sentence that can't be argued with. Then you light a candle. You leave it burning, tucked between two stones. It flickers as you walk away, but it doesn't go out. The city above forgets names. It always will. But the stones below. Remember, the tunnels stay dry. The channels run clear. The stench stays away. And though the citizens give credit to the gods or the builders or the breeze, you know what keeps it all from drowning. It's the flow and the hands that guide it. Yours, Lucius's, Gaius's, Severus's, even the young ones still learning. You walk the same path the dead walked. You sharpen the same tools. You carry the same silence. And the tunnels carry you. He steps carefully, torch in one hand, grease cloth in the other, counting each stone along the path. He doesn't speak unless spoken to. That's how he's lasted. That and his willingness to work in silence. He's thinner than he should be, skin stretched tight across cheekbones, but his shoulders are strong and his eyes stay sharp in the dark. Lucius watches from the archway near the west shaft, arms crossed. He doesn't call out, just watches how the boy scrapes the build-up from the vent walls, how he wipes the torch soot from the ceiling, how he listens to the tunnel like it's breathing. When the boy finishes his round, he turns without being told. He walks past Lucius and nods once. Lucius nods back. Nothing more is needed. It's been that kind of week. Gaius joins them after sunset. His limp is worse, but he refuses the stick again. Says it makes him look like a senator. He brings roasted barley wrapped in linen and a string of old jokes. The boy listens but doesn't laugh. Gaius nudges him once and mutters that he'll break someday. All stone does. The three of them eat sitting in the dry vault near the dye vats. Their boots lined up beside them, steam rising off the floor in slow, sleepy curls. The boy eats quick. Lucius eats slow. Gaius eats while talking. By the time the food is gone, the torch is burning low. No one speaks of replacing it. They let the dark come. Later, when the city above is quiet and even the cats have gone still, Lucius finds the boy oiling tools alone. He asks his name again. The boy hesitates. Silvanus. He says. Lucius nods. You're from Trastevere, he says. It's not a question. Sylvanus nods once. Lucius doesn't ask more. He just hands him a square of folded parchment and tells him to memorize the next week's flow orders. When Sylvanus opens it, the ink is smudged and cramped, scrawled by a tired hand, but exact. He studies it like scripture. That night, Lucius watches from his cot as the boy traces the roots again and again with his fingertip, his lips barely moving, the tunnels already making a home in his mouth. The boy dreams of water. When the west tunnel sags, it's Sylvanus who notices first. He smells it before he sees it. The scent too sweet, like rotting fruit. He kneels by the support post and taps the stone with the butt of his tool. It gives back a hollow thud, one that doesn't belong. Lucius follows the sound down, eyes narrowing. Hairline split, he mutters. Gaius swears and spits. They mark it with chalk and assign it for first shift. But when they return the next morning, the crack is wider. There's no waiting. They brace it with iron bars pulled from the old bathhouse dump, jammed in like teeth into the earth's jaw. Gaius wedges himself into the sagging arch and holds it with his shoulders while Lucius sets the mortar. Sylvanus hands up stones, fast and steady, never looking away even when the whole ceiling groans like a god waking up angry. When the last slab sets and the tension eases, they sit on the floor, soaked in sweat and tunnel mist, and laugh louder than they should. Gaius grins like a madman. Lucius doesn't smile, but doesn't stop them either. Sylvanus exhales like he's been holding his breath all winter. When they return to the upper level, the market is bustling as if nothing happened. Pigs squealing, olives cracking, the old fishmonger yelling about his daily catch. The same street they kept from sinking beneath a river of human filth. None of them say anything. They just walk past. Sylvanus spits once into the gutter. The girl from the bakery starts asking questions again. She waits by the tunnel gate in the early morning, clutching a crust of bread and a wool doll. When Lucius appears, she asks if the city still breathes. He tells her to ask the boy. Sylvanus crouches so their eyes are level. She hands him the bread, still warm. "Do you really live under the streets?" she asks. "Only when it matters," he says. She nods like this makes perfect sense. "Do the tunnels remember?" He looks at her then, really looks. He nods. They remember better than people. She leaves the doll with him. "Keep it safe," she says. He does. The old man from the southern slope dies in his sleep. No one sends word, just a note on the crew wall. Gaius, gone. Shaft 3 to be inspected. Sylvanus finds Lucius at the shaft before sunrise. Neither of them says his name. They descend together. The crack he patched last winter is still holding. The tools he wrapped are still oiled. Lucius lights a candle at the bend. Sylvanus kneels beside it. He places the doll from the bakery. Girl near the wax. Lucius raises an eyebrow. Sylvanus shrugs. Someone should hold him. They leave it there. That night, the tunnel is quiet. The city shifts again. New magistrate, new fees, new signs posted at the water access points. 1 says the sanitation crews are now to be reduced. Fewer men, tighter reports, no more overtime. Allotments. Lucius reads it without blinking. Sylvanus folds the paper in half, then in half again, until it's small enough to lose. They don't speak of it again. Instead, they draft their own list, not names, not assignments, just what must be done. It's not long, but it's enough. They carve it into the back wall of the tool room. No one signs it. They all live it. Weeks later, A senator's son descends the stairs, perfume first, guards behind. He demands a tour. Sylvanus leads it. The boy complains of damp, of rats, of the smell. Sylvanus nods politely. The boy points at the carved initials along the vault and sneers. Superstition. Sylvanus doesn't answer. The boy orders a wine drain to be rerouted. For convenience, Sylvanus asks what will happen to the olive press. Runoff, if he does. The boy doesn't know. Sylvanus nods. I'll think on it, he says. He never does. Some parts of the city don't bend. One morning, Sylvanus arrives early. He lights all the torches himself, walks the full western path alone. He scrubs graffiti from the fresher walls, replaces a latch on the copper gate, and checks the lantern oil 3 times. When Lucius finally comes, he finds the boy sitting on a dry stone. Breathing slow, Lucius sits beside him. Sylvanus speaks first. There's a boy down in the slums, watches the drains when it rains, counts the bubbles. Lucius waits. He asked me what they lead to. I told him. He looks at Lucius. He wants to join. Lucius nods. We'll see if he returns. Sylvanus nods. He always does. The next winter, Sylvanus begins carrying the key. Not officially, no ceremony. Just one day, Lucius hands it to him and walks ahead. Sylvanus weighs it in his hand, turns it over, feels the ridges worn from decades. Of use, it fits easily on his belt. The other workers notice but say nothing. They follow him into the tunnels without hesitation. He speaks little but listens well. When the flood hits the southern curve and the wine street backs up to the ankles, it's Sylvanus who leads the fix. When the pipe near the aqueduct groans like it's about to split, it's Sylvanus who climbs inside. When the new recruit panics at the stench and vomits into his own boots, it's Sylvanus who helps him clean up without a word. Lucius stands back and watches. He knows when to leave the torch in someone else's hand, at the edge of the city, near the broken statue of Bellona. A new stone vault is being laid. Sylvanus walks its length, inspects each slab, nods to the workers who don't recognize him. He marks 3 faults with red chalk and leaves without speaking. That night, he returns. With tools, he repairs the seals alone. The next day, the foreman says nothing, just stares at the red chalk, now clean. Sylvanus walks past without meeting his eyes. The city keeps changing. Roads repaved, gods renamed, rulers come and go. But beneath it, the tunnel endures. The torchlight still flickers. The stones still whisper, and the flow carries everything the city forgets. Sylvanus walks it daily now. He knows every bend, every crack, every carved name. He no longer looks up when footsteps echo behind him. He knows the crew by weight and rhythm. He hears when a step is wrong and teaches without scolding. He leaves coins where others once did. He sharpens tools before they dull. He carries the city's breath in his chest. And when the girl from the bakery, now a mother, sends her own son to learn, Sylvanus meets him with a nod. No welcome, no lecture, just the lamp and the path ahead. They tell stories about the river sometimes, that it knows things, that it remembers faces longer than stones do, that if you kneel beside the cloaca's mouth and whisper a name, the current carries it to the sea and back again. Sylvanus doesn't believe in magic, but he believes in memory. He believes in the weight of things unseen. Today the river runs slow, thick with the residue of last week's rain, tugging gently at the silted banks, as if trying to pull the city downward into sleep. Sylvanus stands at the outflow gate, shoulder to the iron post, watching it move. It's nearly silent here, except for the steady slosh of water and the distant beat of hooves crossing the bridge overhead. He doesn't speak, he just watches. A quiet moment, like many before. But he knows now that these are never empty. They fill you without asking. He returns through the long route, taking the older passage, the one Marcus once called the spine. The air here always feels older, like breath exhaled by a tired guard. The walls narrow, the torchlight flickers. He passes the junction where Albia carved her name beside the soot stain, where Gaius once dropped a whole basket of nails and laughed, until he wept. He touches the stone there as he walks, fingers brushing against history without stopping. At the tool wall, he swaps the dull blade for a sharper one, oiled already. Someone else has been doing their part. He smiles at that. He doesn't need to know who. The work speaks for itself. By mid-morning, 3 young workers arrive, panting and red-faced, new ones again. Sent from the magistrate's office to learn the routes. He nods to each in turn. He doesn't memorize their names. Not yet. That comes later, after they stay. After they understand. He hands them tools. They flinch at the smell. One of them asks why the floor is damp when it hasn't rained. Silvanus just says, because the city is always sweating. He shows them how to walk steady, where the floor dips without warning, where the roof creaks if you touch the wrong stone, where the rats watch from behind the barrels and don't move unless they sense panic. One of the boys drops his tool in the muck. He swears and reaches for it. Silvanus stops. Him, not like that. He shows him how to test the depth with a stick first, how to watch for shine. Shine means oil, and oil means something's leaked. Not just filth, something worse, something political. They walk the length of the East Corridor, 32 grates, 2 rusted chains, 1 loose support near the 7th vault. The boy with the shaky hands asks, what happens if they miss a blockage? Silvanus says the same thing it always does. Flood. He lets that sit with them. He can see in their eyes they don't yet understand, but they will, that night. Silvanus eats alone beside the center vault. Bread from the bakery, still warm. A note folded under the twine. No words, just a drawing of a flame and a bowl. From the girl, the woman now. She never forgot. He eats slowly, watching the shadows shift with the flicker of torchlight. This is where he first stood alone. The first torch he ever lit. The first silence he learned to carry. He doesn't leave the note behind. The rains come. Harder this year. Too early. The skies over Aventine go black by noon. The gutters fill before the second bell. The shopkeepers hammer boards over their door frames while shouting curses at the clouds. In the tunnel, Silvanus watches the flood begin. The water snakes down from the high grates first, clear and quick, then thick, then fast. He bellows for the team to brace the north wall. Lucius, older now but still precise, wades through ankle-deep runoff to clear a jammed sluice. The others follow, dragging debris to the side chambers, unhooking vines and bones and the strange, clinking trash of city life that's found its way into the mouth of the world. The new boy freezes near the secondary gate. Silvanus grabs his. Shoulder, move or drown. The boy moves. By nightfall, the tide recedes. No tunnel breaks, no flood breaches, no flood breaches. The stones, no name is lost. When they gather at the junction, soaked and shaking, someone starts to laugh. Then another, then everyone. The kind of laughter that chokes and hiccups and pulls the fear out by its roots. Sylvanus doesn't laugh, but he smiles. It's enough, in spring. The magistrate changes again. This one visits the tunnels in silk shoes, and asks how quickly the walls can be whitened for a ceremony. Some foreign dignitary wants to see the Cloaca Maxima, wants to see the great underground marvel of Rome. Sylvanus says the walls are already clean. The man frowns. I mean decorated. Sylvanus says they aren't a temple. He gestures to the carved names. People already prayed here. The man does not understand. He leaves after 15 minutes. Sandals soaked, face sour. The next week, the funding is cut. Sylvanus doubles the inspection schedule. He does not explain why. The team obeys. Lucius does not come down one day. No word, no message. Sylvanus walks to the old man's home near the ivy wall, finds the door open, the bed empty. A boy nearby says he saw Lucius walking toward the eastern hills at sunrise, alone, carrying nothing. Sylvanus doesn't follow. He walks instead to the western gate, past the torch bend, past the shrine, all the way to the tool room. He lights a candle. He sharpens Lucius's favorite blade. He lays it gently beside the initials carved. Long ago, then he sits and lets the silence sit with him. Years pass. The names grow thicker along the stone. The tools were slower now, handled with care. The city above changes its rulers, changes its gods, changes its laws. But the tunnels keep the rhythm. Sylvanus teaches slower now. Less talking, more watching. His steps are still firm, his eyes still clear, but his shoulders carry more than tools. They carry memory. One night, a girl joins the crew. She walks the tunnels without flinching. She asks fewer questions. Sylvanus watches her take to the flow like breath. She finds an old brass coin lodged in the grating, and instead of pocketing it, she sets it in the shrine. When she passes the inspection test, she says she doesn't want a ceremony. She just wants to learn. The river's names. Sylvanus nods. You'll hear them in time. He begins leaving the morning keys on her cot. She always takes them and always returns them. One day, she forgets to return them. Instead, she keeps them on her belt. No one says anything that night. Sylvanus doesn't light the torches. She does, at the tunnel's heart, where the oldest bricks still hold the first lines of the cloaca. There is a name, faded, almost gone. Sylvanus kneels before it now. He touches the stone. He remembers Marcus, Gaius Albia, Publius, Lucius. He remembers the bakery girl, the doll, the bowl of warm water, the first torch, the first crack, the first time he truly listened to the tunnel and heard it speak back. He is tired, but not finished. He closes his eyes. He breathes in the scent of stone and moss and water. He feels the city above move in rhythm with the quiet below. And for a moment, there is no difference between them. Only the flow, only the work, only the memory of hands that kept it alive. He places one final stone into the wall, unmarked, not for names, just for presence, just for continuity. He stands and walks on.